Picture a tiny house. You walk in, and there's a living room, a bed tucked into a loft, and one long, clean wall of cabinetry, floor to ceiling, no handles, no hardware, nothing that says kitchen anywhere on it. Then someone presses a panel, and that wall splits open, slides back, and reveals a fully working kitchen. Stove, sink, fridge, everything that was completely invisible 30 seconds ago. This isn't a renovation show gimmick. This is one of the biggest small space design trends going into 2026. And today I'm breaking down exactly how disappearing kitchens work in tiny houses, what they actually cost, and why so many small space owners are choosing to make their kitchen vanish entirely. If clever space-saving design is your thing, hit subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because I cover builds exactly like this every week. And stick with me to the end, because I'm going to show you a real 290 square foot apartment where an entire kitchen, sink, fridge, and dishwasher included disappears behind a single sliding wall, and it might be the cleanest use of hidden space I've ever seen. Let's start with the obvious question. A kitchen is arguably the most used room in any home. Why would anyone want to hide it? The answer, once you actually look at how tiny house layouts work, makes a lot of sense. Reason 1, visual calm. In a small home, the kitchen is almost always visible from everywhere else because there simply isn't a separate room to put it in. That means dirty dishes, cluttered counters, and open shelving are constantly in view, whether you're relaxing on the couch or hosting a guest. A disappearing kitchen solves this instantly. When you're done cooking, the whole thing folds away behind flat cabinetry, and the room resets to a clean, uninterrupted space. Reason 2, the room becomes multi-purpose again. This is honestly the biggest one for tiny houses specifically. If your kitchen visually vanishes, the same square footage that held your stove and counters 10 minutes ago can now feel like part of your living room, your workspace, or your dining area. You're not adding square footage, you're borrowing the same square footage twice. Reason 3, it plays directly into the biggest interior design trend of the year. Industry designers have been describing this exact movement heading into 2026 as the invisible kitchen trend. Kitchens designed to blend so completely into the surrounding cabinetry and architecture that appliances disappear entirely, with the cabinetry styled more like high-end built-ins than ordinary kitchen storage. In other words, this isn't a fringe idea anymore. It's mainstream, and tiny houses are simply the most extreme, most impressive version of it. Reason 4, resale and rental appeal. For tiny homes used as guest cottages, backyard units, or short-term rentals, a disappearing kitchen is a genuine wow factor. It photographs beautifully. It gives visitors a wait, where's the kitchen moment, and in a market full of near-identical tiny house listings, that kind of memorable detail can be the difference between someone scrolling past your listing and someone booking it. This is where it gets genuinely clever, because there isn't just one way to do this. Builders and designers are using several different systems, often combined in the same kitchen. Sliding track panels. This is probably the most dramatic version, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Full height panels, matching the surrounding wall or cabinetry, mounted on a heavy-duty overhead track. Slide them closed, and the entire kitchen wall disappears behind a continuous, seamless surface. Slide them open, and the whole working kitchen is revealed at once. Bifold and pocket doors. Instead of one large sliding panel, some designs use bifold doors that fold in on themselves, or true pocket doors that slide directly into the wall cavity itself, disappearing completely rather than just sliding along the surface. This works especially well for smaller kitchen zones like a coffee station or a compact prep area within a bigger kitchen. Lift up and gastro panels. For appliance garages specifically, a growing number of designs use a panel that lifts straight up and disappears above the cabinet line, supported by a hydraulic or gas strut hinge, rather than swinging outward. This removes the visible mechanism almost entirely, so the door effectively vanishes when it's open, not just when it's closed, which is ideal in a tight tiny house galley where a swinging door would eat up valuable walking space. Tambour and roll-down doors. Borrowed from old-school roll-top desks, tambour doors use a series of connected slats that roll into a hidden channel, similar to a garage door in miniature. This is a compact option that works particularly well along long cabinet runs, since it needs no swing clearance at all. Push to open, handle-free cabinetry. And tying all of these systems together, most disappearing kitchens ditch visible handles entirely, using push-touch mechanisms so cabinets pop open with a light press, keeping the entire kitchen wall looking flat, uninterrupted, and handle-free when closed. Designers have specifically flagged this as one of the defining kitchen storage trends heading into 2026, allowing cupboards to blend seamlessly into surrounding joinery. Let's move past theory, because there are some genuinely stunning real-world examples of this being done right now. One widely covered example is a 290 square foot apartment in London, designed specifically to conserve space and hide clutter, where sliding trapdoors conceal an entire kitchen setup: sink, refrigerator, freezer, dishwasher, and induction range. All of it tucked completely out of sight when not in use. Photos of the space closed up show what looks like a simple, minimalist wall. Slide it open, and it's a fully equipped kitchen. In Porto, Portugal, a firm called Fala Atelier transformed an existing house into a set of small studio apartments, using plywood cabinetry to conceal absolutely everything in each unit, including a compact kitchen, behind matching millwork, so each tiny studio reads as a clean, minimal room rather than a cramped one. There's also a compact freestanding option worth knowing about. Originally designed decades ago, and still referenced today as one of the earliest kitchen and cabinet concepts, an entire kitchen unit that fits inside a simple two-door cabinet enclosure, proving this idea isn't even new. It's just being reinvented, refined, and applied specifically to tiny houses now. And in one particularly clever small flat by Studio Bozzi, sleek wooden doors conceal not just a hidden kitchen on one side, but a full laundry setup on the other, meaning two of the most space-hungry functions in any small home are both tucked behind matching cabinetry, leaving the actual living space completely open in between. What ties all of these builds together isn't really the mechanism, it's the discipline. Every single one of these spaces commits fully to the concealment. There's no half measure where the fridge is hidden but the stove is still visible, or where 3 of 4 appliances disappear and one gets left out looking awkward. The most convincing disappearing kitchens treat the entire cooking zone as one unit that either shows completely or vanishes completely, which is exactly why, in photos, these spaces read as a normal wall rather than a kitchen with a few things tucked away. It's also worth noting that this trend isn't limited to brand new construction. Several of these examples, the Porto Studios, the Studio Bozzi flat, are renovations of existing, often older buildings, which tells you this isn't something that requires starting from a blank slate. A disappearing kitchen can be retrofitted into an existing tiny house or small apartment, though as we'll get into later, doing it during original construction is almost always cheaper and cleaner than adding it after the fact. The core idea behind that London studio, and the growing number of tiny houses copying the same approach, is what designers now call a shape-shifting layout, a home that physically reconfigures itself throughout the day rather than assigning one fixed function to every square foot. In the morning, the kitchen wall slides open, and you cook breakfast in a full working kitchen. By the time you're done eating, the same wall slides shut, and that entire footprint becomes open floor space again. A home office, a yoga space, extra room to simply move around a small footprint without bumping into countertops. At night, the same principle can apply to a fold-down or Murphy-style bed, meaning a single tiny house can convincingly function as a kitchen, living room, office, and bedroom, all using the exact same square footage, just at different points in the day. This is genuinely the core promise of the disappearing kitchen trend, and it's specific to why it works so well in tiny houses instead of full-size homes. When your entire home is 1 or 2 rooms, having any single function permanently visible and permanently occupying space is a real design cost. Making the kitchen disappear isn't just about tidiness. It's about literally reclaiming square footage for other uses throughout the day. Think about it this way. In a full-size home, a kitchen that sits and used for 18 hours a day is simply background space nobody thinks twice about, because there's a separate living room, a separate office, a separate everything. In a tiny house, that same 18 hours of an unused, visually loud kitchen is 18 hours of your only room being partially occupied by something you're not even using. A disappearing kitchen effectively gives that time back. The room gets to be whatever you need it to be at that specific moment, rather than permanently splitting its identity between kitchen and everything else. There's one more trend worth mentioning here, because it's closely related and gaining serious traction heading into 2026. The scullery, sometimes called the dirty kitchen. In full-size homes, this means having a secondary, smaller working kitchen tucked behind a pocket door or hidden cabinet facade, so the main visible kitchen stays photo-ready while all the actual mess happens out of sight in the scullery. Designers have specifically pointed to this as one of the biggest luxury flexes in kitchen design right now. In a tiny house, you obviously don't have room for two separate kitchens, but the underlying idea scales down perfectly. Instead of a second room, tiny house builders are applying the same keep the mess hidden philosophy to a single disappearing kitchen wall. The visible living space stays clean and photo-ready at all times, while all the actual cooking, mess, and clutter happens behind a wall that closes the moment you're done, giving a tiny house the same, always guest-ready feeling that a full-size home gets from having an entire second kitchen. Let's talk real numbers, because a disappearing kitchen is genuinely more expensive than a standard open one, and it's worth understanding exactly where that extra cost comes from. A standard tiny house kitchen, cabinets, counters, basic appliances, fits within the typical tiny house build cost range of roughly $150 to $400 per square foot, depending on finish level. A disappearing kitchen adds cost on top of that baseline in a few specific places. Track and sliding hardware. Heavy-duty overhead tracks rated to support full-height panels cost meaningfully more than standard cabinet hinges, and they need to be installed with precision to avoid sticking or misalignment over time. Custom panel fabrication. Because the closed panels need to match the surrounding wall or cabinetry exactly. Same material, same finish, same reveal lines. You're paying for custom millwork rather than off-the-shelf cabinet doors. Reinforced framing. Tiny house walls are often thinner than standard construction, so supporting the weight of large sliding panels or the mechanism for a lift-up appliance garage sometimes requires additional structural reinforcement built in from the start. Appliance selection. Disappearing kitchens generally work best with slimmer, more compact, sometimes integrated appliances designed to tuck behind cabinetry cleanly, and those tend to cost more than bulkier standard models. The honest takeaway here is that a disappearing kitchen isn't really about the kitchen itself costing more. It's about the concealment system layered on top of it. If you're planning one into a new tiny house build from day one, the added cost is far more manageable than trying to retrofit an existing, already built kitchen into a hidden one later, since retrofitting means tearing into finished walls and cabinetry that were never designed to conceal anything. Let's be balanced here, because a disappearing kitchen isn't automatically the right call for every tiny house. The pros: a genuinely cleaner feeling living space, a room that can serve double or triple duty throughout the day, a strong selling point for resale or rental listings, and honestly, just a great wow moment for anyone stepping into your home for the first time. The cons: higher upfront cost, more moving parts that can eventually need maintenance, and a small but real daily friction cost. Sliding a panel open and closed every time you want to cook is objectively one more step than just walking up to a kitchen that's always visible. For some people, that's a non-issue. For others, especially if you cook multiple times a day, it can start to feel like an extra chore rather than a design win. The honest answer is that a disappearing kitchen makes the most sense for people who value visual calm and multi-use flexibility more than they value pure convenience, and for tiny houses that double as guest spaces or rentals, where that reveal moment adds real value. If you just want to cook dinner with the least friction possible, a standard open kitchen is still going to be the simpler, more practical choice. Before you get too excited about building one of these yourself, here are 3 things worth knowing up front. Mistake 1: underestimating ventilation needs. A concealed kitchen still needs proper range hood ventilation, and some designs now use retractable hoods that rise up from behind the cooktop and disappear back into the counter when not needed. Skipping this, or bolting it on as an afterthought, is one of the most common regrets builders mention. Mistake 2: choosing style over function. It's tempting to prioritize how seamless the closed wall looks over how easy the kitchen actually is to use day to day. If sliding the panels open becomes even a slight hassle, you'll find yourself avoiding it. which defeats the entire purpose of a kitchen you're supposed to want to reveal and use. Mistake 3. Skimping on the mechanism itself. Track hardware, gas struts, and pocket door systems are not the place to cut corners in a tiny house. These parts see heavy daily use in a way full-size home hardware often doesn't, since the exact same footprint is being reconfigured constantly throughout the day. If this has you seriously considering a disappearing kitchen for your own tiny house, here's the practical path. Step 1. Decide on your concealment method first. Sliding panels, bifold, lift up, or timber, since each one needs a different amount of clearance and wall thickness, and that decision shapes your entire floor plan from the start. Step 2. Work with a designer or builder who has specifically executed hidden or disappearing kitchens before, not just standard tiny house kitchens. Getting the reveal lines, panel alignment, and hardware right is a specialty skill, and a poorly executed version is far more noticeable than a normal, visible kitchen would have been. Step 3. Plan your ventilation, electrical, and plumbing runs around the concealment system from day one, since retrofitting any of this after the walls are finished is significantly more expensive and disruptive. Step 4. Choose appliances built for concealment specifically. Slimmer refrigeration units, integrated cooktops, compact dishwashers, rather than assuming any standard appliance will tuck neatly behind a hidden panel. So that's the tiny house with a disappearing kitchen, proof that in a small home, even the busiest, messiest room doesn't have to be visible all the time. It's not just a party trick. It's a genuinely smart way to make one footprint do the job of 2 or 3 rooms, all in the same house. If you made it this far, you clearly appreciate the kind of detail that turns a small house into a genuinely clever one. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a like if you'd actually build a disappearing kitchen into your own tiny home. And tell me in the comments, sliding panels, lift-up doors, or the classic timber roll-down, which hidden kitchen style would you actually want to live with? I'll see you in the next one.